Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The monster hunters of Norsca face off against the Skaven. So we have myself leading the Norscan forces, and we have Bob Tresh will be leading the Skaven. So for the Norscans, we have a very wide build of Marauders. So we have a bunch of Marauders in that front line, and we have a few Berserkers in the back in a very spread out formation to kind of avoid the effects of the Poison Wind Mortars, for an example, and provide a nice wide area so we can dodge whatever shots we can. We do have a Shaman Sorcerer of Fire going to be bringing Fireball and Burning Head. We also, of course, have Throg with his Wintertooth Crown, which gives an AoE Unbreakable when cast. We have a couple of Marauder Hunters with Javelins in the rear to deal with things like the Hell Pit and any of the other larger monsters. We also do have the Fimir Warriors, the Miststalkers ROR variant, who do have stock, so they will be able to kind of approach a little unnoticed for a good while until the Skaven weapons teams would be able to target them, and they do also have missile resist on top of that. On the far flanks, we do have some skin wolves, so we have a couple of armored skin wolves and a Norscan warhound, so we have one of each on both the right and left flank, looking to get into the back, chase things off with the warhounds, and use those skin wolves to get on the larger targets. But that is going to be it for the Norscan forces, so let's swing on over to what the Skaven have brought for us to face off against. So of course we do have a Poison Wind Mortar team, but the forces are going to be led by Lord Skrulk, and he is going to be bringing the Liber Bubonicus and the Rod of Corruption. He is also going to be bringing some of his summons, so he does have the Pestilent Birth for Plague Monks and Vermintide for the Clan Rat summons. For the monsters, we have the Thing, the Hellpit Abomination ROR, which has a little bit better stats, and it also does have that the Fluid Injection, which gives plus 25 armor piercing damage, plus 24 melee attack, plus 25 base weapon damage, but it also rampages the unit, but still makes it a very dominant threat on the battlefield when cast. We also have a Packmaster, which is going to be bringing its Remoldered, or its Shock Collar as well, which gives plus 24 melee attack and 2016 leadership to any clan molder monsters. And there is the Running with the Pack for plus 4 hit points per second. And that is going to be it, so it's going to be just running in support, but it is, of course, on its Brood Horror, which gives it a very nice 95 speed. For the rest of the forces, we do have some Wart Grinders looking to kind of shut things down, keeping things from getting on top of these Poison Wind Mortars, and allowing them to shoot and do some ridiculous damage to the oncoming Norscans. For mobility, we do have a bunch of Rat Ogres, one of which is the Pit Fighters of Hell's Deep, which, taking from the Norscans, they do have the Berserk ability, so they'll be getting better and better as they are in combat, but eventually they will go Berserk if they are in combat for too long, but they will have some nice stats to boot on top of that. For the support, we do just have a bunch of Skaven Slave Spears with a couple of Clan Rat Spears dotting around the formation, and we have some Plague Monk Sensor Bearers in the middle, which do excellent work against Skin Wolves. They'll do a ton of damage to them, armor piercing damage, magic attacks to cut through that physical resist, and they won't be taking that additional damage from the Skin Wolves bonus versus large. And of course they do have the Contaminated, which is minus 10 leadership on top of that. Those are going to be our armies for today, so let's get things rolling as both armies do advance. Norscan's going to be coming in through the mortar fire as the first round does fire off into the oncoming approach, and they will be making contact with these Marauders as that first volley does find its way in. So it'll be doing a nice little bit of damage over time as those Norscans do finally approach the Skaven formation. Another volley will be sure to follow, and the Norsemen just trying to close that distance as quickly as they can. Next volley coming in, this time looking to be arcing its way back into these Marauder Berserkers, so spreading that damage out across many of the oncoming units. Doing a good job there. Didn't end up clipping these Miststalkers. They are still going to be avoiding that initial fire, but 2 units have already taken some decent amount of damage. Next shot's going to be going in after these Marauder Hunters' javelins, and they do try and dodge it, but with the spread of those mortars, they still take a lot of damage, and those are going to be the key targets for those Skaven artillery. And they do get a summon of Clan Rats, though, right behind these Marauders as the rest of the army does approach, getting muck things up, keep the rest of the Norscans at bay. as now Lord Scroll does get into that engagement. But these Miststalkers, seeing these Rat Ogres in that front line, will be quick to jump on top of them, trying to do as much damage to them as they can, as well as the Packmaster, as this little blob of infantry does engage. But yeah, these Poison Wind Mortars already routing off these Marauder Hunters with Javelins, so, and with them out of the picture, it's going to be a lot harder to take down that thing in the late game. Norscans starting to swing around into the back line, getting, well, not really into the back line. They're going to start putting a little bit of pressure there. The Warp Grinders do preemptively use their snare there, as the forces do kind of charge in, but they weren't going all the way through, just engaging with these pit fighters of Hell's Deep. But now Throg is wading into the mist, going to be wavering, actually terrifying these Skaven Slave Spears, allowing the rest of the Norskins to kind of push through into that gap. But these Plaguebug Censer Bears are holding strong so far. A nice burning head going to be wasting through these Skaven Slave Spears. Not really going to be getting a whole lot of damage value out of there, but it is going to start breaking down the box of the Skaven, allowing the rest of the Norskins to kind of start funneling through, as these Skin Wolves are finally going to get on top of these Poison Wind Mortar teams, and the Packmaster trying to kind of pull them back. But these, for the time being, at least the Poison Wind Mortars are going to be shut down. And the thing though, is going to be engaging with Throg and the Miststalkers. So without the Javelins to fire in, this is kind of the best case scenario for Norsca. However, the thing does use its fluid injection, and it also has its shock collar too. So we take a look at its stats. It has 100 melee attack and 650 weapon strength. That is insane stats on that thing, but it is still just taking an absolute beating by the Miststalkers and Throg here. But in the center formation, the Plaguebug Censer Bears have been able to actually terrify off these Skin Wolves, as the Poison Wind Mortars are going to be freed up, but they still have the pressure of these Marauder Berserkers, which these Rat Ogres are going to try and get on top of. Another Burning Head, wasting through, shattering these units of Clan Rats and Skaven Slave Spears, just opening up the door for the rest of the formation to kind of just bleed right on through for the Norskins. But yeah, that thing took so much damage from the Miststalkers and Throg, and that is going to be a bit of a problem for the Skaven now that it is so low, and they're going to have to try and rely on getting that too horrible to die proc. But these Poison Wind Mortars have been freed up, at least for the time being, once again, and that the thing actually is rampaged here, as its fluid injection does go down once again. But the rest of the Norscan infantry is starting to funnel through, as a fireball trying to arc its way to the thing does miss its mark, as it just kind of passes right on through. The pit fighters at Hell's Deep trying to keep things away from the rest of its forces, as the Poison Wind Mortars are going to be free to fire, and they are going to start firing off some more volleys, using up quite a bit of its ammo in this match, as it does try and target these Marauder Hunters with Javelins. One of the threats that it does pose to the thing. But a nice Burning Head. Looks like the Skaven can be able to dodge it for the most part, but the thing does get its too horrible to die proc, getting a nice little buff to its HP here, allowing it to stay in that fight for a little bit longer, as we do have some Skin Wolves and Throg are all just wailing on top of it, as well as the Miststalkers here. So a lot of very powerful units for the Norskins, dealing a lot of damage the way of that thing and the rest of the Skaven forces. The Pitfires of Hell's Deep also taking quite a bit of damage themselves, and there is still a decent amount of infantry left for the Norskins, and we do have the Shaman Sorcerer of Fire off in the distance, and there's nothing that can really do a whole lot of damage to it at this point. Nothing that can quickly get on top of it. We do have the Packmaster, but that Packmaster is kind of dealing with these Norscan Warhounds, and it is able to push off these Skin Wolves, but the rest of this battle is going to be pretty much decided by this engagement right here, as another Fireball is going to be casting its way right into that thing, as it does take much damage, but another too horrible to die proc, as it does pretty much bring it up to its healing cap, salvaging it from the brink of death once again, and in comes that Packmaster to get a nice little bit of healing. But a Rod of Corruption also going down on all of these Skaven Norscan forces, doing a lot of damage, and these Skin Wolves are starting to waver, and Throg is getting fairly low in health, as well as the thing just continues to out heal and do a bunch of damage its way. But Throg is the Troll King, and he will not be denied here. He will not be going down without a fight, as he is wavering that thing, but one more too horrible to die proc. That is its third one in the match, as the balance power is in the Skaven's favor, but it is not enough to save it this time, as Throg deals the final blow, and down goes the thing. It does get its Clan Rat Spear summon off, as it does finally die. But now these skin wolves are going to be jumping on top of the Packmaster, surrounded by a lot of infantry here. That Packmaster being separated from the rest of the units, probably not going to be going so well. But the Fimir warriors still standing strong, and now at this point it is pretty much just down to Lord Skrulk, as even the pit fighters of Hell's Deep are getting very close to going down themselves. They are starting to waver, as I think that is going to be pretty much curtains though, because I mean Throg at this point, Skrulk's not going to be able to deal the damage to Throg unless he has another Liber Buvanicus in his back pocket to finish him off. But even if he does finish off Throg, he does have to contest with the Miststalkers, who do terror themselves. So that is going to be a bit of a problem for them. However, the Plague Monk Censer Bearers are coming back, getting on top of the Skin Wolves with the Rat Ogres, and the Censer Bearers do quite a bit of damage to the Skin Wolves, but they are so low in health right now. They are down to 20 models and dropping with the pressure from these Marauders, and if they do rout, I think that is going to be it, because now it is just going to be Lord Skrulk standing alone against the Troll King, and he is going to be terrified, and that will be game. So Norskins do finally pull it out in that battle. The Thing getting 3 of its 2 horrible to die procs, definitely keeping the Skaven in that battle into that late stages, racking up a total of 1800 damage there, damage value. Not so bad. Not quite even paying for itself, though. It is quite an expensive monster, that thing. But the rest of the forces, Plague Monk Censer Bearers paying for themselves, getting 1,000. A lot of that was on the Skin Wolves. And, of course, the Poison Wind Mortars, always going to be getting a ton of damage if they're able to use up a lot of their ammo, which they did, racking up 1,800, shutting down the units they needed to, which was these javelins. So pretty much making them a non-factor in this battle, because these normally Norsca really relies on those to deal with the thing, but otherwise dealing with them, it forced Norsca to rely on Throg, who did, I mean, almost 3,900 damage on Throg in value. All of that just wailing on that thing with all of its heals throughout the battle. So Throg definitely carrying that monster battle, especially with all that healing that thing got. The Shaman Sorcerer able to clear out chaff. I mean, it did get almost 1,000 in value, but a lot of that was just to Spearmen. But I mean, you still have to deal with all those Clan Rats and Clan Rat Spears. Just dealing with them, getting them out of the way, and allow the rest of the infantry to file in, because otherwise the rest of the infantry, it's really just meant to mow through the Skaven formation and get onto that back line. And this Skaven did a very good job of making sure that their range units and very valuable targets was able to continue firing in. I think the Warp Grinders could have done a little bit better. I noticed that their snares weren't exactly as on point as they may have wanted. But otherwise, yeah, big MVPs for Norsca were the Miststalkers and Throg himself. Everything else just pretty much there doing what they could. Some of these Berserkers did quite well indeed, getting 1,600 on them. And if you look at all the Rat Ogres, doing some good work. But, of course, not quite enough in the end. But it was a very close match, a lot of back and forth. That thing proving to be quite the sticky foe for the Norskins. But that is it that I have for you all today. I hope you do enjoy the video. And as always, have a good one.